We also have Melina. Okay, Grace.
So just to start off, let's start with the music video that we saw right before we watched the film. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship with All American Remix and kind of how they got involved in both IC and kind of, you know, what the premise was, like how you guys like put together the music video?
I mean, if I actually paid for the soundtrack, I'm supposed to, it would cost more than the movie, you know? So there's a lot of favors and things like doing videos for people for free, you know? So, but I thought, you know, that video's not out yet, so it comes out in like two weeks or something like that. So you guys gotta see it early.
And so, so when you were kind of putting together IC and like, you know, as the ideas were kind of coming through, what came first, the music or, you know, like the plot? Like, because the two seem very synergistic when you watch the film.
I didn't even think about the music when I first, actually, it was originally a music video idea. And I came up with the idea, I had this idea of this guy sitting in a chair, and it was, this sort of creature was crawling out of him, and it would like go around the room, and the whole video stuff. It was actually for 9 Inch Nails, which is Trent Reznor. I didn't get that video, but I held on to that thing, and I have sometimes it's like you have this like thing where it's like you have an idea, and you put it in a music video, and then it lives, and you know, it happens over 30 years of music video. You see an idea that you do, and other people make movies out of it, you know? And then so you're like, well, this could be a good music video, but it could also be a good movie. So this was one of those ideas that I just saved. Instead of actually executing the video, I would, you know? So I have like a handful of those things where, you know, I just don't put them in videos because I don't want to make movies out of them.
And then I guess, you know, you mentioned your very storied music video career, and you've done so many different genres. How did you land on pop punk? Specifically 2000s pop punk.
You know, the funny thing is, okay, so in the 2000s, it was like the biggest, it was the last hurrah of rock. Rock doesn't exist anymore, by the way, for the most part, in pop radio. They don't even play it, you know, the rap took over. Part of it, I have some theories of it, you know, part of it is that the last hurrah of rock was that pop rock stuff, you know, but it started getting very political, you know, the sex got taken out of it, you know, and I can tell you straight up, when I do rap videos, you want to put some sex in there, the rappers are like, fuck yeah, you know? And then when you do a rock video, the rock stars now overthink it. They're like, who am I gonna offend? Am I a misogynist? You know, it's like all those things, you know? And they essentially censor themselves. But here's the thing, when you go to a party, those young kids, you know, no matter what age bracket or what era you are, they all like do the same thing. They get into puberty, you know? They turn 13, 14, 15. They all want to have sex. They all look at each other, you know? And they still need that music. But if it's not being supplied by the rock stars, the rappers do it, you know? So it was like the last era of it, like there. But here's the thing, it was so big, remember how big it was in the 2000s? And then it just completely disappeared. I don't know, maybe there's a slight revival. Is there a slight revival going on now? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, there is now, right?
Like World Tour and stuff, it's coming back.
It's coming back, yeah, but when I made it, it felt so dead. I thought, like, what happened to it? And what happened to the people that listened to it? And I realized, holy shit, that dude's like 40 now, you know? and does he still listen to that music? And what does the world look like to him? And also, 20 years later, that world that he lived in does not exist anymore. And what if he had to go back and see the new kids? What would that feel like to him, you know? And so that was the genesis of the idea, and that's how the music became much more of an important thing. But it wasn't that I wanted to make a pop rock movie. It was like, that's the score of his life, and that contrast between the modern era of him being stuck. And there's a lot of things about this movie being stuck in things, you know, and avoiding things. And it felt like some interesting contrast between the two. And actually, I wanted to see what the audience would do too. Like, what happens if you play all these songs? You know, they hate you. I don't know.
Can you talk a little bit about the casting process? I mean, Lily, you were amazing. I think you inhabited the character of Grace so well. But also the guest.
Yes.
Then I'll start off for her, and then I'll get to her. So the casting started off. She was actually the first person I casted. Okay. So obviously I was looking for a Hank, you know, and what I was looking for was like kind of like a Marvel guy. You know, I was thinking like maybe Chris Pine, Chris Evans, or whatever. Basically a superhero with his leg broken, right? But I'm with a big Hollywood agency, and they're like $20 million. I was like, I can't afford that. I had $5 million for the entire movie. I was looking for that person, it eventually became Brandon Routh. And that's like Superman with a broken leg. So, okay, that's cool. Like Superman with a broken leg, that works, right? But as I was casting and looking for that person, I was auditioning all the young actresses in Hollywood. And then her audition came up. And it was so different than everyone else's audition. Because everybody else read the script and they just made it a straight up comedy. And she played it much more real and much more natural. And was still funny at the same time. And that actually, because when you write a script, you don't know what the actor is going to actually be like. And so she was the first person I casted, and she actually defined the way I wanted the entire movie to be acted. Like she clued me into what the movie should be. Can I hear you?
I think that with this whole film that Joseph truly took this and reinvented the 90s. I think Joseph created a film that everyone is trying to create right now, and taking the 90s movies like Clueless and all these fucking awesome films and putting it into our generation, my generation, and reinventing it in a beautiful way, but not ruining any of it. And yes, I think that this movie is super real and super relatable, and I believe that all of the comedy is because all of us relate to it, and it's funny, and it's saddeningly funny. You know, you relate to it because life is life, and yeah, it's super real, super funny. I fucking love it, and I think it's truly. It's something, again, this is the 5th time I've watched this movie, or maybe the 4th, I don't know, but this is a film you have to rewatch. This is a film you should see many times. I was there when we were shooting it, and I noticed maybe 20 different things today watching it. So there's a million Easter eggs in this film, and that's why.
Do we have any questions from the audience? We'll start right over there.
I want to apologize for a heavy-handed question. First, congratulations on your success of inserting yourself into the pantheon of films like The Blob and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Awesome. Given that those films have classically been analyzed as political films, and directors recently have said things like, my films aren't political, what is the ick?
What is the ick? Okay, the reason why directors say they're not political is because they don't want to politicize movies and lose an audience, okay? That's the truth, you know? And there is politics to this movie, but the truth is the politics changed as I made it, you know? Because you kind of bat around and things like that, so there was an agenda, but ultimately, and this movie was concepted originally in 2016, or 2018, okay? But ultimately, it became more or less about the politics for me and the characters, you know, and that whole idea of aging, that sort of pop culture war between young and old and growing older and being stuck and not wanting to move on, you know, that's more meaningful for me. But ultimately, when it comes to my personal politics, I've come to the conclusion that I am a cynical optimist. Okay? And what that means is I don't take anything seriously because everything is fucking confusing, you know? So I laugh at everything, but at the end of the day, I love everyone. You know, it's like, I'm an optimist that I believe that things will work out and things will be great. And the motivations of any of our politicians are all over the fucking place. Who the fuck knows, you know? But I do believe in humanity, and I do believe that human beings are good at the end of the day. We would be here, like 8 billion of us, if we weren't. So, cynical optimism is the attitude.
Right here.
Yeah, I really love this movie a lot, and Detention is one of my favorite movies. I love the little shout outs to Toshiba and Billy Nolan in this movie. And one of the things I really like about this movie and that one is that they both explore the idea of like the film archetype characters. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that influences your filmmaking process? Because that movie and this one are sort of like comedy horror mashups. Are those genres you're interested in exploring, or more archetypes?
I'm interested in genre as philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, because genre are a set of rules that you expect. You enter these little worlds, and everybody knows that there's things that have to happen in these worlds. Like, you know, in a cowboy movie, the cowboy has has to have a showdown and the good guy wins or whatever, stuff like that. So these are all like perspectives, and to me it's like in a deeper level, they're like extrapolations of personal philosophy, each one of these movies, right? But there are things that have to change when you make, like, say, a modern movie for young people. Like, for instance, the reason why Dylan is so woke, right? Like, let's think about this for a second. If you had a bully like you had in the 80s movies that walked around, was racist, was like walking around beating up people, and just was like fully foul, right? There's not a single high school that guy would be popular. He just would be kicked out of school and everyone would shun him. So the only way a villain like that can exist today is to wear different clothes, to hide himself underneath that. So now the bully would be fake woke, right? Like, and then you can believe that that guy can actually walk around because everybody going, yeah, he has good intentions, but he's a shithead at the end of the day, So that's the way that I kind of twisted it that way.
Right over here.
The soundtrack is amazing. So, how did you go about securing the music and getting the licensing from the record labels and the bands?
I'd say like half the bands I knew, and like I remember I Instagrammed Good Charlotte, and then my partner Bud Carr, who also did my last movie Body, he's all the Stones guy, did the Doors and Natural Born Killers, and so he's like super looped in. So between him and I, we called like this movie would easily like a Blink-182, all small things. That's $1 million track, but they gave it to me for basically nothing, So it was just a bunch of favors, and I'm super thankful. But I'm actually still having to write a check, because this film's coming out in July, and in theaters, and I'm gonna have to write a check to these guys. This is a festival, and I actually don't really pay for it, so.
Melina, and for you and like for the rest of like the younger students, did you curate like a playlist? Was there like like either a music playlist, or was there like some like reference like high school movies from like the 90s and 2000s that you were like, okay, like this is kind of the vibe you're going for, but a little different?
I think me myself, I would die to be in a movie like Clueless or anything of that sort. So of course we were shooting in Texas. It's very hot, so we blasted the AC every night, and we definitely blasted a lot of music and kept the energy up. It was such a beautiful cast. We all really loved each other, and we had a really awesome time filming. Music is very important. Driving home from set, driving to set, music was very prominent. And on set, Chancellor you were making a playlist on set. There was a Spotify playlist being made that was shared with everyone. So prominent and energy on set. Yeah, so important.
Sorry. So actually, I'd like to talk a little bit about, it's a comedy horror. There are some really poignant scenes. I think the relationship between you and Hank in the film, it really kind of cuts through. Like, there are just some moments, like obviously they get a little broken up by the, by the ick. Could you talk a little bit about like how like that relationship, like built that relationship, and kind of how you approached it? Because you kind of go from like super cynical and sarcastic to like a very like the core relationship in the film.
I think the most awesome thing was to film the last scene on the first day of filming with me and Brandon. And Brandon is the coolest guy ever. And we immediately bonded filming that last scene. And we had no idea what was to come from the rest of filming. We really didn't know what the film was going to be. But I think it was genuinely just natural, honestly. And Brandon and I immediately connected. We filmed that last scene, and it really set the tone for our relationship for the rest of filming. And he taught me a lot. I'm a young actress, and he's an awesome guy. And yeah, it was really cool.
And Joseph, was the last scene always meant to be that question mark? Or is it a question mark even in your mind?
Well, let me put it this way. I think the question everybody always asks is, are they father or daughter, right? But my question is, does it matter? You know? But by the way, the Anthony Michael Hall, there's a thing that Anthony Michael Hall did. Like, I worked with him on Body, the film before this, right? And I asked him about John Hughes, you know, because I was thinking about doing this later. And he said one of the things John Hughes did is that he had all his young cast hang out for 2 weeks. You know, they would go to dinner and do that and create sort of camaraderie and bonding. So you know, that worked for fucking John Hughes, worked for me. So I put them all in Airbnb. But yeah, but I mean, like at the end of the day, the father-daughter thing, like this is the way I sort of view it. You know, if they have a bonding and they have a father-daughter relationship, right? And say, for instance, it turns out they're not father and daughter. Does he ignore her and walk away with no parents, you know, or does he stay there, right? You know what I'm saying? Is an adopted kid not valid anymore, you know? So at the end of the day, for me, it doesn't matter. Like, whether it's for real or genetic or not, they have that bond. You're father and daughter. The actual answer doesn't matter.
Well, thank you all for coming. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. But you did mention that the film is coming out, so if you'd like us to support the film when it
Yeah,
premieres,
it's gonna be.
still
I can't really talk about it completely, but it's gonna be an event release where it's gonna be like in 800 theaters, but only in like one night. So when you find out about the date, please tell all your friends and more importantly, bring your kids to Gaggy. You know, like show them this, like give them a starter horror. You know, like don't go straight to Terrifier.
Thank you so much.